Something very bizarre is taking place here in Manhattan. Let me go right to our sister website, Red State. Headline: DA Bragg sues Jim Jordan over Trump indictment subpoenas claiming interference. Quote, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has filed a lawsuit against Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio in federal court, seeking to block a subpoena Jordan issued to Mark Pomerantz, a former senior prosecutor in Bragg's office, and to prevent Jordan from receiving confidential documents and testimony from the district attorney himself, as well as his current and former employees and officials, as part of an investigation into Bragg's handling of the case against Donald Trump. The House Judiciary Committee, which Jordan chairs, recently issued a subpoena for Pomerantz, who oversaw the office's investigation into Trump when he worked in the Manhattan District Attorney's office. The committee has also requested documents and testimony from Bragg and his office. Those requests have been rejected by Bragg. According to Fox News, in his lawsuit, the Democratic DA said he's taking legal action in response to unprecedentedly brazen and unconstitutional attack by members of Congress in an ongoing New York State criminal prosecution, an investigation of former President Donald J. Trump. In a statement, Bragg said Chairman Jordan's subpoena is an unconstitutional attempt to undermine an ongoing New York felony criminal prosecution and investigation. As our complaint details, this is unprecedented, illegitimate interference by Congress that lacks any legal merit and defies basic principles of federalism. Trump was charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records and pled not guilty during an arraignment in Manhattan last week. My first guest is president and founder of Proactive Strategies and a former President Trump campaign advisor, Mark Serrano. Welcome back to the program.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
What's this all of a sudden? Democrats don't like big power meddling in local affairs? I mean, when did they get this? When did they get stricken with this?
Well, Alvin Bragg, like many Democrats, are legal contortionists. He's going to twist and turn, to serve his political needs. And ironically, there's this massive contrast between the case that Alvin Bragg has made in New York courts and the case that Jim Jordan is making to subpoena Mark Pomerantz and others involved in the investigation in Bragg's office. Pomerantz worked in the DA's office before Bragg was there and then carried on. He was making a strong case to Bragg that Donald Trump should be charged with felonies and left a year ago because he was fed up with Bragg that Bragg didn't have the guts to do it, and then wrote a book about it, The People versus Donald Trump. Well, the reality is Jim Jordan has every right, because Alvin Bragg has acknowledged that through forfeiture law, federal forfeiture law, his office spent federal dollars investigating Donald Trump. Well, you can't use federal dollars and then not be subject to congressional scrutiny. Doesn't work that way. So this lawsuit from Alvin Bragg will be dismissed on its face because Jim Jordan has every right to scrutinize what's happening with this investigation.
And why would he be in any way forbidden from talking to Pomerantz, let's say as part of his duties on the weaponization of government subcommittee? And weren't these alleged illicit payments first discovered by the Mueller team, which was a federal investigation, and then submitted to the FEC and dropped, which is also a federal agency which Congress has oversight of?
But absolutely. And Pomerantz is no longer with the DA's office. Right? So there's really nothing that shouldn't subject him to congressional scrutiny. Furthermore, one of the claims that Alvin Bragg makes in his case against Donald Trump, his flimsy case against Donald Trump, has to do with election law, federal election law. So he's crossing over into federal jurisdiction and then bouncing back away from it, trying to make this case that Jim Jordan has no right to scrutinize his investigation. He spent federal dollars to investigate Donald Trump. He's making a claim that's actually federal jurisdiction with federal election law. Absolutely, he needs to be scrutinized. He will be. And finally, thank goodness for Jim Jordan. Thank goodness for Speaker McCarthy, Matt Gaetz, and others. The tables can now be turned on the Democrats and they can get some of their own medicine for once.
And the truth is, it's not like Jim Jordan can really do anything to Alvin Bragg, right? He's not the governor of New York. He can't remove him. He can't really charge him with anything. I mean, Congress doesn't have any law enforcement powers, but we've seen Congress drag baseball players in over alleged steroid use, right? Congress does have the authority to subpoena individuals when they hold hearings. If Chairman Jordan wants to hold a hearing here, there's nothing stopping him from talking to Pomerantz. And by the way, isn't Pomerantz even more anti-Trump than Bragg?
Oh, yeah. Pomerantz made that clear. He leaked his own resignation letter a year ago to Bragg, making it clear he was not happy. He wanted Donald Trump to be charged with multiple felonies at that time. And it took a year for Bragg to make his case, again, regardless of how flimsy it may be. So, yeah, there's no doubt of that. Jim Jordan, and look, this is the power of the majority. Jim Jordan's going to put a spotlight, and this is right in line with the weaponization of government. This judicial kangaroo court that we're seeing with Donald Trump, the case is beyond the statute of limitations. There's really no basis to it. Of all 33 or 34 charges, there's no underlying crime even defined, which violates Donald Trump's Sixth Amendment rights. This case, I mean, layer after layer for Alvin Bragg is only going to complicate things for him. And hopefully this thing gets thrown out sooner rather than later, thanks to the scrutiny from the majority in Congress now that they have the power to conduct hearings, to put a spotlight on the weaponization of government being done within New York, but using federal statutes and laws to do it.
You think they should subpoena Cy Vance, the former Manhattan DA, because Cy Vance has said on the record that he was told, when he was asked, why didn't you prosecute this case, he said he was told to back down by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, or someone in the U.S. Attorney's office. Shouldn't we know who this U.S. Attorney was that was allegedly threatening Cy Vance?
Oh, yeah. Look, the Southern District of New York has been a cesspool of political intrigue and attacks. And Cyrus Vance absolutely said that. And look, he's from New York. Cy Vance is certainly a far left progressive tradition in the traditional sense. He's out of office. I think that's a great idea. Bring Cy Vance in. Let's see what he was looking into. Let's see why he didn't pursue it. Let's see who told him to back off. None of that should be a function of an existing investigation. None of it should be a function of any sort of privilege claim because he's a prosecutor. Honestly, I think that's a terrific idea. Let's get Cy Vance in there. Let's bring everybody in who's taken a look at these cases for years against Donald Trump, politicizing our judiciary and our prosecutorial power. And by golly, let's expose it. This is crazy. And the Democrats are going to have the tables turned on them, especially if we regain the Senate and the White House in 2024.
You know, I'm going to wrap here. If this were a Republican DA with a Republican governor, there'd be pressure on the governor to say, hey, you got to step in here. You might not like the former president, but you can't do this. This is really, an injustice. It's unethical and it's wrong. Because in New York, the governor could remove a district attorney. That's not going to happen here. It's almost as if they know they're doing it to get Trump, and they're totally okay with it because really there's no downside up and down the New York food chain. Not in the city, not in the county, not in the state. So Alvin Bragg actually does have the approval of Manhattan voters. If he came right out and said, I'm doing this just to get Trump for you, he'd probably get reelected. I got to leave it there, sir. Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
He's got to deliver on his campaign promise. I agree.
Exactly.